Ethan Klein. In 2016, he was rolling around on the floor in his apartment, making fun of a fitness YouTuber. And that video got 20 million views. And Ethan in 2024 is getting into public meltdowns on Twitter with people who used to worship the fuck out of him. It's the same guy we're talking about. And after watching 2 seasons of Hannibal, I now think of myself as a psychological analyzer. And today we're gonna play therapist together. Because what I find really interesting and what I wanna talk about today in this video is how this happened. How did this guy go from point A to point B? In the early days, Ethan Klein's channel was a reaction channel before anything was called a reaction channel. Ethan and Ela sitting together in their apartment watching ridiculous content and having genuinely funny and relatable reactions to the content. No production budget, no agenda. And in my opinion, what made them so interesting and so attractive to watch was the fact that they had almost the exact same reaction to the content they watched all the time. And that relatability, the fact that Ethan Klein just was some regular guy with a camera recording his own reactions, was basically the product he was selling, and it was working. But the problem with selling your personality is that you gotta stay the same person, even when the circumstances change completely. Something that I have been thinking about a lot lately is this weird paradox that occurs when you become famous for being yourself. Because now being yourself is a job. And the moment something becomes a job, you gotta start optimizing. You start thinking about it differently. The spontaneous thing becomes a performance of the spontaneous thing. And I don't really think Ethan sat down one day and was like, I'm done with this shit. I'm gonna become the most out of touch motherfucker on the internet. I think it happened in the same way that happens to all of us, where our personality gradually changes and we at the end find ourselves a different person. The podcast gets big. You need content every week. You start talking about things outside of your lane because you've milked the fuck out of the things in your lane in a way where you have nothing else to talk about. Your audience grows and gets louder, and the loudest part of that audience becomes your main source of feedback signal. You start unconsciously performing for them instead of being yourself. They show with Trisha Paytas and Ethan Klein that I myself find very interesting, and not for the reasons you think, because we could all agree that Trisha Paytas is not very good at the type of entertainment we like, but I think she's excelling in other places. When you watch those episodes, and especially the later one, you start to notice that Ethan is deeply invested in this being reasonable character, the measured one, the good guy in the room, the guy that says all the right stuff. And that need, that identity, made him brittle in a way he didn't used to be. The early Ethan was unbothered, self-deprecating, and just weird in general. But this Ethan is sifting for a win. There is something that happens to creators who build a large, loyal fan base and then start making content primarily for that fan base. The audience stop being the people you come on the internet to talk to and become more the people you come to for validation. Validation itself is way more addictive than criticism. Ethan's audience, and especially the podcast audience, became its own ecosystem. They had their own language, their own jokes, and they even had their own enemies. And Ethan, consciously or not, started reflecting that back to them. The politics got louder, and the takes got more confident. The willingness to engage critically with himself, which was his whole thing before, started disappearing slowly but surely. And the sad part in all of this is that I genuinely don't think he is noticing that. I think that he thinks he is the same person he was before, just with stronger opinions now, just more grown up, just more willing to say what is on his mind. But the early version of Ethan would have made a video about the version of Ethan we have today, and I would pay top dollar to have that happen. H3 still has millions of subscribers. The podcast still does numbers. By most measurable metrics, Ethan is more successful than he has ever been. But success and relevance aren't the same thing. And I think what people mourn when they talk about H3's downfall is not the views, but it's more the feeling that used to come with watching his content. The sense of watching somebody being genuinely naturally funny with no branding and no need to want to be right all the time. Fame doesn't really corrupt people in the dramatic way we see in movies. It's slower than that. It keeps reflecting you to yourself until you forget what you looked like before. Anyways, that is my read on it, and I could be completely wrong about all this shit, and I've been just yapping the whole time. That is going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you appreciate the content. And make sure to watch this video right here, because apparently it riled up a lot of people. The comment section there looks like a fucking war zone. But I guess all engagement is good engagement. Yeah, until next time.